Welcome back to our business law class. I am your host Edward, and today we are going to look at the sources of law in Kenya. And of course, we have several various sources of law in Kenya. The biggest of them, or the most supreme of them, is the Constitution. And so, the number one source of law in Kenya is the Constitution. The next one is legislation, that is Parliament, that is where the members of Parliament are able to come up with laws. The next one being delegated legislation. Of course, this is where legislation has been delegated to several various public bodies who are able to come up with bylaws. Take an example of KPLC, Kenya National Highways Authority, or KENHA, and so on and so forth. The next one is African customary law. Of course, our African customs have provided a wide source of laws, and of course, it's a source of law from where we consult so that we can have them become part of our laws. The other one is Islamic law. Islamic law, of course, our brothers from the Islamic faith also have a source of law which is called Islamic law. The other one is Hindu customary law, and the last but not least include the common law and equity. Fast forward, we are going to look at the Constitution and see what the Constitution is all about. And of course, the Constitution is regarded as the most supreme of all the sources of law. And so, in case there is a law that is inconsistent with the Constitution, that law is always regarded, or that source of law is always, or that law is always regarded as void. And so, let's just define the Constitution, because we need to know what it is. Of course, it's a document or a body of laws, of the basic rules and principles by which a society or a country has resolved to govern itself or regulate its own affairs. It contains the agreed upon contents of the government or the political system. Taking the case of the Kenyan political system, you can see that we have a government. We always have governments that run for a period of 5 years, and of course we bring in the government through elections, and we assume, or we know, that our political system is democratic. That is all contained in the Constitution. It contains the structure of the government. It is the most important source of law, and it falls under under the public law. And of course, it's made up of 18 chapters, 264 articles, and 6 schedules. That's just an introduction of what the Constitution is all about. Let's go to the supremacy, or the power or the strength of the Constitution. Of course, the Constitution is regarded as the most supreme, or the strongest of all the sources of law in Kenya. It is regarded as the law within which the framework or detailed rules and practice are to be laid out. Of course, if there are certain frameworks or practices that are being laid out, they have to follow what the Constitution lays out or provides. It takes precedence. That means it is stronger than any other law. It takes precedence. So whatever it sets out is what is supposed to be followed by other sources of law. It cannot be therefore altered. It cannot be altered. Nobody is allowed to alter the Constitution as is common with the ordinary legislation. And so it remains unalterable and unchallengeable. So nobody is allowed to challenge the Constitution. It declares, of course, its supremacy in Article 2. Any act or omission in contravention of the Constitution is invalid, and it is binding upon all persons and state organs at all levels. State authority must be exercised as authorized by the Constitution. Every person is obliged or obligated to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution whatsoever. An attempt to establish a government unconstitutionally, take this very very cleanly. Note that if you want to set up government unconstitutionally, then you have done something that is called a treason, that is being unlawful. Take an example of coup d'etats. Military coups happen to be unconstitutional in Kenya, and so you cannot set up government through that process. Any law, including customary law, that is inconsistent with the constitution, is considered to be void up to the point or up to the degree of inconsistency. Any treaty or convention ratified by Kenya forms part of the constitution. Of course, our constitution is written and it is also rigid. That means that it is contained in a given document or in the document called the constitution, and it is rigid. That means it cannot be changed anyhowly unless there is a referendum through which every person goes to vote for the constitution to be changed. Other types of constitution include unwritten constitutions, like the example of the British Constitution. It is not written. It is not found in a document. And also we have flexible constitutions, which can be altered as a normal legislation. That marks the end of our first source of law, the Constitution. Let's meet in the other video as we see the next source of law, which is called legislation or acts of parliament.